The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences only, so don't tell your parents! Listener discretion is advised.
Test your might. Test your might. Test your might.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. I'm your host, JD, and with me yet again is Mr. Matt.
It has begun! This episode of the podcast, about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the 90s Mortal Kombat cartoon, Defenders of the Realm, as part of our Fight Month.
Fight Month!
Get ready to brawl. Round one. Fight.
I've been waiting for this day.
Get over here! Hadouken! The king of Iron Fist Tournament. Oh, you get puppy! Game set! Perfect!
I'm so glad they used that song for like the latest
I know, the newest
Mortal Kombat
trailer.
11 trailer.
The remix is so good too. So with that trailer, and then they had a commercial in France that had Christopher Lambert, who played Raiden in the movie. And I'm just like, I was at maximum hype by the time it released tonight. Like, I'll probably let them know. But just before we recorded this episode, I went and picked up my copy of Mortal Kombat 11. I got a few matches in before we're about to record, so I'm just itching to get this episode done, and then I'm going to go right back to playing.
Yeah. I've been watching.
What's your familiarity with Mortal Kombat?
I've like played a little bit of like the original games. I've never been good at Mortal Kombat because I'm really not good at like traditional fighting games.
Right.
But I've always maintained that like of all the fictional universes, Mortal Kombat is the one I would never want to live in.
Oh God, right?
But I have like a weird fascination with it, especially like the last few games. I basically just watch other people play through like Mortal Kombat versus DC, and then I've watched people play through the story modes of 9 and 10.
Right. So you got a familiarity with like the newer installments. Yeah,
so like I kind of I know what's going on like leading up to 11, which like Matt said, I'm sure by the time this comes out, everyone will be well deep into Mortal Kombat 11, which looks pretty cool. I doubt I will ever get it.
I'm
terrible at it.
I've been a big fan of Mortal Kombat my whole life. I spent a lot of my youth just playing the original games. I sort of dipped into the 3D games there for a bit. Deception, Armageddon. I was kind of burned on Armageddon a lot, though. I didn't actually, as much as I loved what I saw of Mortal Kombat 9 and X, I didn't actually invest in those. I kind of just watched from afar. But I feel like NetherRealm Studios has like proved themselves since then, with those games and Injustice. And I was like, you know what? I think the wounds have healed. I can finally, I could buy a Mortal Kombat and not feel like it's going to burn me. Like, but then also just, huge fan of the films. Well, the first film, the second film's good for like a corny watch. The second film's good for a corny watch. The first film is still a legitimately like one of the best, video game to movie adaptations out there. Like, it's very good.
I feel kind of bad because I tried rewatching the first movie probably like last month or something, but I stupidly tried watching it at like 1 a.m.
Oh.
So I kind of like dozed off a lot.
I love that movie, dude. Like that and the Super Mario Brothers, the live action one, are some of my favorite. Oh, and that's good for a reason that it's not a good adaptation of the games. That's just a fun watch. But we can.
I haven't seen the Mario Brothers movie since I was like 10 years old, so I need to watch it like as an adult to make sure it's like as bad as I think it is.
And it's so good. It is so good. If you ever watch it, like live stream it, like I'll be right there.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so
Defenders of the Realm.
The 80s and 90s really had a habit of like taking really not kid appropriate things and turning them into a Saturday morning cartoon.
God, right? Like, and it was so funny because they did that, but then they didn't keep what made those movies, like, at least, you know, popular. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Mortal Kombat's popular because it was so violent in a time where games weren't that violent.
Right, yeah. You played Street Fighter because it was like, you know,
a good
it's
fighting
Street
game.
Fighter, but you go play Mortal Kombat because, like, oh my god, people are like ripping heads off and tearing hearts out,
and they look like real people, like that.
Right,
freaked out people, like, oh my god, that's like a dude on screen, and he just got his head ripped off of his body, like,
yeah.
But you don't really see any of that in the cartoon because that's, as a kid's cartoon, they don't really show death, like, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, this is quintessential 90s Saturday morning action cartoon where it's like there's fighting and lasers and stuff, but no one really ever gets hurt, or
they get banished to the realm of no return, I believe it's called.
It's the Shadow Realm.
Essentially, that is exactly. It was the Shadow Realm before the Shadow Realm.
Right. So I'm not sure, like, where. I think I was reading that a lot of this show takes inspiration from Mortal Kombat 3.
It does, like, as far as the design element, like the design of the characters and sort of the world is very reminiscent, very inspired by Mortal Kombat 3, but the plot of it kind of takes from the games too, but it's a sort of weird middle ground. It's like they reference events that happened in the first live action movie in this show. Like, on 3 separate occasions, they reference events that happened in the movie. They don't reference the second movie at all, Annihilation. Annihilation. But then this show features things that weren't in the first movie or the second movie, so it's kind of like a weird. It's like the first Mortal Kombat movie rolled into the third Mortal Kombat game, and that just, it sort of lies right there somewhere. It's like, it's kind of a weird place, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll be honest. I probably watched about half of the season. I didn't actually get through the whole thing.
For shame.
Not for lack of wanting to. It's just I just didn't have the time this week.
No,
to
that's
get through
fine.
the whole thing. But man, this is such a bizarre show.
You know what? I feel like it's just bizarre enough, but that's because I'm pretty up on my Mortal Kombat lore. So
okay, so that's what really bothered me about this show. My first biggest complaint: where the hell is Johnny Cage?
Yeah, so
why is he not mentioned at all?
Now, this is a weird thing because, like I said, the design element and some of the characters picked and stuff was very reminiscent of Mortal Kombat 3, and Johnny Cage wasn't in that game, so, and the reason why he wasn't in that game is because they were having weird troubles with the actor that played him in the first 2 games. So they actually didn't include him at all. They included Johnny Cage, the character, in the second revision of Mortal Kombat. So there was Mortal Kombat 3, then they did Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which the difference there was it had, like, Mortal Kombat 3 when it originally came out didn't have any of the ninja characters. Sub-Zero was in there, but he didn't look like, you know, with the mask and everything. But there was no Scorpion, no Reptile, no Smoke, no Ermac, none of the ninja characters. So in the Ultimate game, they put them all in there. And then they did Mortal Kombat Trilogy, which was the second revision of Mortal Kombat 3, which was not in arcades. It was just on home console. And they included Johnny Cage in there, but he was one of the only characters that they actually filmed new sprites for. They got a whole new actor and everything. So yeah, I'm not sure if that was the reason why Johnny Cage isn't in this show, is because was related to that. But I also thought maybe because this is like a weird pseudo sequel that pays attention to events of the first movie, but not the second, but maybe they're counting Johnny Cage's death in the beginning of the second movie canon. I don't know. They never referenced Johnny Cage at all either, so it's kind of weird.
I have no idea. But like, another thing that really bugged me is that, again, most of my knowledge comes from like these last couple of games that come out.
Yeah. So
like, Jax and Sonya's relationship is really odd to me in this show because, like, Sonya is like this really like gung ho like battle chick, and Jax is basically her sassy black friend.
He's always
Whereas,
calling
like,
people
in the
girlfriend.
games, as far as I'm aware, and even like in the movies, isn't he like supposed to be like her commanding officer?
Yeah, and that's pretty much that's the show is a weird representation of that relationship. And it's also really weird because they're part of the special forces, and in this show, a Striker who is just like a riot cop is like trying to establish ranks over them, which I'm pretty sure the special forces outranks the police. It's really weird.
That's another thing. Why the fuck is Stryker in this? Does anybody like Stryker?
I like the idea of there just being like a regular dude who's enduring the events of all the supernatural bullshit.
Like I think it was MK9. I liked him there for that reason.
Yeah.
Just because he's just this random cop, and like all this shit starts going down. He's just like, what the hell is going on?
9 did a really good job of retelling the events of the first 3 Mortal Kombat games, and sort of because for the arcade games when they originally came out, there was like everyone had like arcade endings and sort of like, reasons for why they were fighting in the tournaments and stuff, but you didn't really know what was canon until the next game came out, and even then only like some characters' arcade endings ended up being canon, and so sometimes you didn't even know like the motivations behind characters or anything. But 9 did a really good job of sort of like fleshing out like those first 3 games of story and sort of making them a coherent like sort of timeline. But so Stryker's whole deal, he's just a dude who has like not in this show, but like in the games, he has like explosives and like a taser and like an actual gun and like that bullshit.
All standard issue cop stuff.
Yeah, in the show, he just has like a nightstick that closes portals
for reasons.
You know what? Actually, no. He has a gun, but it shoots lasers. And
of course, it's a '90s cartoon. No, but everyone shoots lasers.
But I watched all the episodes, and I don't recall him. I only recall him using it once in target practice. I don't remember him using the gun at all during actual combat.
You can't use guns on people.
They're not people. They're demons and skeletons and like other.
They're still human-esque.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, so we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the characters a little more. I want to like outline some of the voice actors, because for this show, for like the time period and stuff, like just looking back on it, kind of has like a pretty robust voice cast.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Clancy Brown and Ron Perlman and Cree Summer and fucking Luke Perry.
Luke Perry as Sub-Zero is such a bizarre choice. And you know what? I watched the whole season.
I hate it. I hate it so fucking much.
I didn't hate it, but...
it's not that I hate his performance. It's just when I look at their design of Sub-Zero, that's not the voice I imagine coming out of it. It sounds way too young for the big hyper masculine.
Yeah, it's a little
guy that they designed it as.
Yeah,
like Luke Perry has like that little skinny kid kind of voice.
Yeah, I mean, you picture Luke Perry, you picture fucking Dylan McKay from 90210.
Exactly,
and like you look at that dude.
Was this before that?
I think no, he was doing some voice stuff at the time. He was doing Beverly Hills, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the exact. I think the show came out in
96, I think
96. Yeah, I think Beverly Hills Beverly Hills is like an early 90s thing, I think. I'm actually not sure. I don't know off the top of my head. But also, Luke Perry, also known for playing Fred Andrews on Riverdale. He passed away recently. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
And then we have Ron Perlman as Stryker, and also plays Scorpion for the couple episodes that he's in. Who's of course,
I have some words about Scorpion here in a minute.
We know Ron Perlman as Hellboy in the Guillermo del Toro
films. Slade on
Teen
Titans.
He was Slade in Teen Titans. Also, that's how most people would recognize him from their kidly exploits. He's also He's also the narrator for the Fallout games.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's been in every like main installment anyway. I'm not sure about the spinoffs, but yeah, he's Katana is played by Cree Summer, who we don't really have to go into detail here. I mean, she's been
in every black cartoon girl.
She's not. Well, I mean, she's in
Most
every.
of them.
She's in every cartoon. Let's just put it that way. Because I mean, in this cartoon, she's voicing Katana, who's she's not black, but she does voice a large amount of black women in cartoons, which is pretty cool. But who else do we have here? I had Liu Kang is voiced by Brian Tochi, whose most sort of popular other role was Leonardo in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
Oh.
Which is pretty neat.
Interesting.
Sonia is Olivia Diabo, I believe the last name is called. And her most notable thing to me was that she played Tak in Invader Zim.
Huh.
Yeah. And I was like trying to mentally picture some of like Tak's funny ass lines in Zim, and then like coming out of Sonya, who's this really brash character in the show. I'm like, yeah, no, that kind of fits.
Yeah. Oh. That's weird.
So yeah, Raiden by Clancy Brown, who. So this is like
a giant asshole.
But that's what I like about him, because it's so unlike every other depiction. It's more like when you look at the depiction of Raiden in the newer games like 9 and X and 11, like he's a very stern, very serious, Thunder God. But in some of the earlier games, before they really got gung-ho with that, like literally the arcade ending for Raiden in the first Mortal Kombat is he had so much fun fighting mortals that he invited the other Elder Gods to participate, and they fought so much the world exploded. Like it was kind of harkening back to that Raiden, which I thought was pretty funny. He's like cracking jokes and like taking the piss out of people all the time. It's great. I love Clancy Brown's performance as Raiden.
I love how obviously Clancy Brown is having fun with this, but Jesus, Raiden's just a dick in this show.
Yeah.
He's always just shitting on all the other people, and it's being their I don't know, God dude or whatever is a huge inconvenience to him.
I know, and you barely see him really do anything in the show, just because he's always saying oh, you're going to this realm, and it's if I go there, I don't got my powers, I can't really help you. He does fight occasionally, but
there was a line he says at one point is even without my powers, I'm 10 times the fighter you guys are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Raiden, quit being an ass.
Well, because he's trying to teach them to be self-reliant. They can't just be always relying on the Thunder God to do all their work.
That's why he doesn't do anything. It's because you have to be self-reliant.
Yeah, but there's
thanks, Raiden.
There's a fun little connection here that I wanted to outline. So Raiden's voiced by Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown was in The Highlander with Christopher Lambert, and Christopher Lambert played Raiden in the live-action movie.
Oh,
so that's a fun little connection.
That's fun.
And then the last voice I kind of wanted to outline was Kevin Michael Richardson, who is also in every cartoon known to man. He doesn't play any of the main characters, but he does play Cabal and Ermac in their respective episodes that they show up in. And his connection to the movies is that he voiced Goro in the first live-action movie.
Yeah, that was really weird when that happened. I'm like, that's just Kevin Michael Richardson.
Yeah, when you go back and watch it and you have the knowledge, when you know his voice is so distinct, and you're like, oh yeah, you start hearing him and everything.
I love it though.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, that's great. So yeah, that's our main cast. Well, no, that's there's besides them, there's also Nightwolf, who his voice actor, I forgot to write down his name, but this is his only credit. So this is the only show he's ever been in. So he didn't have anything else to sort of compare it to.
Nightwolf has a dog friend.
Kiva, yeah. And so this was a weird thing, because this is not a thing in the original games or the new canon with 9X 11. So Nightwolf and Kiva do this thing where Kiva leaps into Nightwolf's chest, and then he gets his iconic face markings from the games, and
they do a soul merge.
Yeah, but the thing is, I thought this originally, with the first few episodes, I thought they did that, and then he got access to his soul hatchets and his soul bow and arrow stuff. But I see him in later episodes doing that stuff without the soul merge. So I don't know the purpose of that. Does it make him stronger? They never explicitly say.
I'm sure they just decided they forgot about it.
Maybe
in those
I don't know.
instances, and like, it's for kids. Who's
Yeah.
gonna notice?
I like the idea of it, but it's just something that wasn't ever in the game, so it's just kind of a bizarre thing. And then like they weren't even paying attention to it themselves, so it's just.
And I just why what was the point of the decision to make Nightwolf is gonna be their tech guy who like is in the combat cave or whatever they call it.
Well, you know what? They actually do address that though. They're like, oh, Nightwolf, but you're like a powerful shaman. Why are you sort of doing all this technological stuff? And he's like, saying, all these attacks and everything that's been happening. We can't rely just on straight magic anymore. We need to actually rely on technology to sort of tell us where shit's going down and where these portals are opening up and where places are getting attacked. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, at least they addressed it. It's still a little bit of a weird choice because you think like somebody that's more like, I would think with Stryker on the cast, you would kind of see him as more of a, because I don't know. It is still a little bizarre, but I mean, they do address it, which I thought was okay, cool. At least they, even if they hand waved it away, it was like they acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you said, Jax is in here too. He's calling everyone girlfriend, and he's
a quippy 90s stereotype.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, that's our cast.
Yeah, and like this show is like they have a bat cave that they monitor people coming through portals into Earthrealm, and they have to deploy like a team of superheroes in their dragon jets.
Their dragon jets, yes. And you know what? I didn't pay attention to it that much. I thought it was a little funny, but then there's an episode later on where their dragon jets are fighting another fleet of jets that belong to Scorpion's horde, and they're shaped like scorpions. What the fuck?
I died when I saw like the dragon jet's like, all right, that's stupid.
The dragon jets make sense because dragons got wings. Scorpions don't got wings.
I don't know. It was just like, yeah, that's ridiculous. But then like Scorpion is like this undead ninja, and he's got like he's basically like Cobra Commander. Yeah. And has fucking scorpion jets. He's dead. Where did he get these from?
I do wish.
He's got an army of skeleton people.
I do wish Scorpion was in the show a little bit more, but he did get his time to shine.
Okay, so like Scorpion's whole thing is that he like hates Sub-Zero because like Sub-Zero's clan like killed his family and stuff.
Allegedly.
Yeah, so I love and also hate in this cartoon where he's just like evil for the sake of being evil. He's like by the power of all that is evil. It's like, really, he's just that overtly, blatantly evil.
Yeah, that was something they didn't really like when they talked about Scorpion's origins. They said that he was sort of killed in the same attack that his family was killed in, and then like his soul knew no rest, so they dragged him to hell and then revived him as a specter or something like that. They didn't say those exact words. Although, you know what? Show wasn't afraid of straying away from some curse words. They do have some instances of them saying damn and hell, which I thought was pretty interesting given this was a kid's cartoon on USA in the 90s. They call some, I think Stryker calls Kiva a hellhound at one point, and then Raiden says something about the damned souls or something. I can't remember the exact line, but there was two instances.
It might be one of those cases where it's like not overtly being a curse word. It's like
still though.
Yeah, still.
Given like the US climate of like cartoons and them being able to get away with that sort of stuff, like just to explicitly say it was kind of surprising. Like that's something I would have lost my shit over as a kid. That was something that kind of surprised me now, like honestly.
Yeah. That is kind of strange. I mean, we are talking about a bloody video game that invented the video game, had forced the video game industry to invent a rating system.
Yeah, that was
they had to slip a few things in there, I guess.
Yeah, now Mortal Kombat was directly responsible for the invention of the entertainment rating software board. Yeah.
Good job, Mortal Kombat. Good job, Ed Boon.
I bet they're very proud of that.
Yeah. So like the design of this show, and I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this.
Does it look like Batman the animated series?
Okay, good. I'm not the only one who thinks that then.
No, and I think that's so rad. Like, honestly, like, say what you want about the writing and the plot and the show or whatever. The design, I think, is like really strong. Like, I think it works very well.
Yeah, it's kind of like later Batman when they did the redesigns.
The new Batman Adventures.
Yeah, the new Batman. So when they started kind of uniforming things for the DC animated universe, yeah, it's really sleek, kind of a little more geometric, a little more simple. But like every time I look at Raiden, it's like you could probably just drop Raiden in the middle of Batman the Animated Series and no one would bat an eye.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
which is ironic since Batman
with Injustice
can fight in Injustice 2.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I guess in Mortal Kombat versus DC too, but you know.
yeah. So the design worked really strong, and so that was even weirder when so you said you didn't like watch the later half of the season. So
yeah, I got like maybe 7 or 8 episodes in.
Right. Okay, so there's 13 episodes, and on the very last episode, they must have switched studios or something, because the animation and the style and the design and everything is more reminiscent of the other cartoons that were on USA at the time, like the Street Fighter cartoon and Savage Dragon. Like, it just switches out of the blue. Like, and it's just that episode. It's so weird. Like, the animation's kind of like choppy, kind of like it was in those two, and like the designs fit like how those other episodes feel like you can just drop them in New Batman Adventures. Well, if you dropped any of these episode 13 designs like in the Street Fighter cartoon, it'd look right at home. It's so bizarre. Like, I don't know what happened with that. Like, they must have just forgot to contract that studio to do the last episode, or
I guess.
Yeah, it's really weird. But it's it's so weird to just have one episode that, and especially being the last episode. Like, this show is only one season long, 13 episodes, and like it ends on a cliffhanger, as a lot of cartoons do, and they don't get brought back for the second season, and they can't resolve anything. Like,
yeah, it really kind of bugs me when that happens, because like I get you go in expecting like, oh, we're gonna be doing this for a while and we want to tell interesting stories, but then like, you know, your show doesn't end up panning out and you end on a cliffhanger. And
I always got the impression that they purposely ended their seasons on cliffhangers to sort of like gamble on them getting that second season, because like surely they wouldn't just leave us on this cliffhanger.
Yeah, they do it with going in fully expecting, oh, we're going to be coming back to resolve this, but then they don't, and that annoys some people.
Yeah. That would have definitely annoyed me as a kid.
Yeah, but oh well, what are you going to do? But oh yeah, I guess like the one notable thing that came from this show is it introduced Quan Chi.
Yeah, so this show introduced Quan Chi before his first video game appearance in Mortal Kombat Mythologies, which was one of the spin-off games they did, and then that was before he made his appearance in the actual fighting games proper in Mortal Kombat 4. So it took his third appearance to be like in the actual like fighting game canon part of the lore. I
just love that one gif of just Quan Chi screaming.
Yeah, no, you see that thrown out a lot. Did you get to his episode?
I don't think I did.
Okay, so I do got to tell you, like, I want to go back and talk about some of the other funny shit that happens in the other episodes, but since we're on the topic of Quan Chi, so when they were doing the cartoon, because doing cartoons takes time, I'm assuming they sort of just got the designs for Quan Chi, because what he does in the show isn't really representative of what he does in the games. So in the games, his whole thing is sort of like he has a bunch of skeleton based moves. In the show, he has like snake based stuff, which is kind of weird. But so there's an instance where I believe he's fighting Sonya, but he has his snake who transformed into his belt. So he whips his belt off. His snake turns into a staff. The head of the staff, the snake, vomits up another snake. And then that snake vomits up a lot more snakes and wraps around Sonya. It is so dumb. Like,
that's how that works.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Like, I would have accepted all the snakes coming out of the one, but no, they needed the intermediate snake to sort of bridge the gap between main snake and all the snakes.
Well, yeah. Okay, and that's speaking of snakes. That's another thing that like is weird to me. That like when they made the Mortal Kombat movie, they decided like, Scorpion's little get over here chain,
The spear,
is just a thing that shoots out of his hand.
Yeah, so and they kept that in here too. Although
isn't it like a snake that comes out of his hand
in the movie? Yeah, it's like
or like in the cartoon. I thought it was like a snake that shoots out of his hand.
It looked like a snake, but it looked kind of like this looked like a fake snake on a chain, as opposed to the movie where like it was a real or like a demon snake or some weird thing.
Yeah,
I always thought that was like a weird choice. I mean, as a kid, I thought that was pretty neat, but like as a grown up finer connoisseur of Mortal Kombat, it is a bit weird that they would just sort of take away his kunai and the regular rope that it's on. I mean, like. Coming from a fantasy standpoint,
throw a snake at people, but it's like the fact that it comes out of his hand.
Yeah, it is a little weird.
Although hand vagina.
Now that we're back on the topic of Scorpion and snakes, I'm not sure if I imagined it, but did you hear Scorpion with like a little like vocal tick, like he would end any of his words that ended with an S, like on a?
Yeah, he kind of like I said, he kind of has like that weird, like kind of Cobra Commander kind of like
right.
inflection of the way he talks. So yeah, I think he does have like a little inflection there at the end.
Now see, that's really weird to me because they have in a later episode I don't think they ever call them by name in this show, but I believe they're called the Zaterrans in the Mortal Kombat lore, which is like the lizard people, like Reptile. And
right.
They're like Reptile is actually a character that does the hisses, like, and they don't have Reptile in the show because he died in the first movie or whatever, but the person that they have as the leader of that clan in this doesn't do that. And I thought that was kind of weird that Scorpion would, but the actual lizard wouldn't. Like, a little bizarre.
I don't know. Yeah, what I was reading is that there's characters that allude to Reptile and Baraka, but they're like, those characters aren't like,
yeah, they just sort of
actually in the show.
They kind of take over the clans after that respective character like died in them. Oh, and see, that's another weird thing too, because they don't really pay attention to the events of the second movie, which Baraka was in and got killed in, if I remember right. But then the leader of, they call them nomads in this show, which is weird, and I'm not sure if that was before.
It's such a weird like thing to call them.
Yeah, and I can't remember if the games at that time were calling them nomads too. It's just really weird because now the canon forever now has been that they're called they're Tarkatans.
Right.
So pretty bizarre. Anyway, that's just like a little aside. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Although, speaking of them referencing the movies, so yeah, I mentioned that like on 3 different instances they reference fights from the first movie, but they tweaked them slightly so they're not as violent as they were in the movie. So there's a fight.
Well, yeah.
There's a fight in the first movie where Liu Kang fights the Elder Sub-Zero, and in the movie like ends up throwing a bucket of water at Sub-Zero as he's like generating a frozen field or whatever, and it turns into icicle and stabs him in the chest and he freezes over. Whereas in this show, he just sort of throws the water on him and he just freezes, and then they just leave it at that.
Yeah. Like I didn't know that was like a reference to the movie, but like just like Liu Kang is just having this existential crisis over it because like he's fighting Sub-Zero and like Katana like jumps out from the background, says him like this weird cryptic thing, and then he like thinks to throw the bucket of water at him. It's like,
yeah,
okay, sure, why not?
They reference the fight between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung, which is at the end of that movie, where Shang Tsung ends up falling like on a giant spike and dying, but in this he just sort of falls on flat floor, which I get that. And that's an easy fix, but then they also reference Sonya fighting Kano in the movie, and in the movie it's very explicit. She does the splits on his neck and snaps it, and then in this she just sort of like doesn't, like just sort of throws him on the ground with her legs, and then they call it at that, and he's just miraculously alive somehow. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, there you go. He's fine. Yeah, this cartoon is just like all kinds of like just. It's bizarre that it even exists. Like, who looked at Mortal Kombat, this thing that like so many parents already were like,
Really
I don't want
apprehensive
my kids
about.
playing this, and like, yeah, let's make a cartoon that we can make toys off of or whatever.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
I don't know, man.
I'm glad, I'm glad it exists though, because it's very like, it's a time capsule. Like this is what they did with a very popular violent franchise in the 90s. They got a kids show, and this is what it's like. This is how they approached it.
Yeah, that's what they do, man, and they don't make them like they used to.
They don't. You know what? I was kind of surprised because given that this was like a show on USA, even though it wasn't done by the same studio that did Street Fighter, obviously pretty infamous for a lot of its animation errors and stuff. This show didn't really have that much. There's only one instance where I really pointed it out, and it's hilarious because it's a shot of Jax in one of the Dragon Jets, and they miscolored his legs. So it's a view from his back, and they colored his legs the same as his, as a skin tone. So it looks like he's just naked sitting in this jet. No, and it's funny, but it's even funnier with the line he says right after, which was, I wrote it down right here. So it looks like he's naked sitting in there, and then he, and I quote, says, "I've never felt so naked and alone in my life." And it's like the most unfortunate pairing of dialogue and animation error ever. It's amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh my god. Well, Matt, do you have anything else you want to talk about this thing?
Yeah, actually, one other thing. There's some other moments I sort of noted in my notes here, but we don't have to go over them. If they really want to know them so much, they'll go and watch it. I caught it on YouTube. There's a compilation that's like 4.5 hours long to see the whole show.
Yeah, just watch the whole show.
Yeah, honestly, I recommend it. Just, if you've never seen it before, give it a watch. It's like very entertaining. But let's see here, episode 9, this is a really weird thing. Do you remember back like in the mid 2000s? Yeah, I think I might have referenced this on the show before. Cartoon Network did this thing where they sort of did a crossover between the shows, but it was more like not a crossover, but they had like a unifying theme, which was like alien invasion.
Yeah.
So apparently USA like did that way before Cartoon Network did, because in the ending to this of episode 9 of Mortal Kombat, the whole plot of this episode is like Shang Tsung has this powerful orb that controls nature or whatever. They defeat Shang Tsung, they take the orb, Raiden throws it through a portal, and then they sort of avert their gaze as it travels, and then like this shadowy figure goes through the portal after it, and they don't acknowledge what happened there for the rest of the 5 or the 4 episodes left. And so I looked up what that was, and apparently with all the other shows that were on the same block as Mortal Kombat at the time was this big crossover thing with Savage Dragon, Street Fighter, and Wing Commander Academy. So apparently this orb, or this character, I'm not sure which, or if it was both, was like this unifying theme between all these shows for like a couple episodes. It's like this sort of crossover thing, which I thought was pretty neat.
But it's pretty cool to something like that back then.
Yeah.
Though, like, I get it, like, the styles of the show are completely different. But I'm kind of surprised they didn't try to do, like, a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter like crossover episode or something.
I mean, if we were ever gonna get it, like that would have been with them being on the same network and everything, that would have been the prime opportunity for it to happen, like for real, because there's people that have been clamoring for that to happen in the games proper forever now, and like that was the closest it ever got.
Yeah, I mean, Street Fighter's crossed over with Tekken, and we're never getting the reverse version of that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of surprised Capcom and Warner Brothers haven't tried to work something out.
I mean, we don't know what happens behind closed doors.
Because, come on, you tell me you don't want to see Scorpion do a fatality on Ryu.
I mean, it would be... I'm not going to say I wouldn't play a Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. That would be very neat. I'm just saying they could have tried to make it happen. But I mean, listen, we've gotten Marvel versus DC, and that seems like a thing that, you know, we would never have gotten before. But that's happened in the comics.
Yeah, and there was news recently where NetherRealm wanted to make a Marvel versus DC game.
Yeah, I saw that same thing,
but just never got around to it.
Or it could be in the planning stages.
It could be. Marvel's getting back into video. Marvel's getting back to video.
Just like Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. Maybe that's something they've tried to approach before. Maybe they just didn't, you know, come upon an agreement for it. But they could always do it in the future. Who knows? Capcom's sort of trying to get back in the game, in the fighting games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So who knows what the future holds?
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think that does about it for this week. Unless there's anything else you got.
No, I just want to get back to playing Mortal Kombat 11.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, that does it for our review of Defenders of the Realm. I'd really be interested to know if anyone else has seen this cartoon and what they think about it, because I really don't know if I enjoyed watching it or not. Like, I'm really stuck right now. Like, I'm just kind of more dumbfounded by its existence.
It is pretty ridiculous.
I mean, I got a few good laughs out of it. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, it's worth a watch.
So, yeah. So yeah, that does it for this week, and come back next week where we're going to be wrapping up Fight Month with the Street Fighter 2 animated film, which I've been really looking forward to watch. Everyone says it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasant watch. I'm glad I haven't watched it in a while, and I'm going to be showing it to a friend who hasn't seen it before either. So
nice. All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for listening. And Matt, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And for everyone else, we'll see you next week as the combat continues.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch a new episode every week. Also be sure to follow us on our Facebook and Twitter so you can keep up with the show. Links are in the description. We'll see you next week.